On this episode, it's 2023, and we're still talking about polos. Eagle finds his Twitter password and has us all wondering about some obscure drama. I'm JK This Golf. Alongside me, I have Swiss Cheese, and this is the Spit Out.
What's up, sir? I love the intro. Yeah, still talking polos. Let's get into this polo talk already.
I feel like we've been doing the Spit Out. I can't tell if this is the second or third year, but I know for sure we've had this conversation at least 14 times. I feel like every couple months now, it's like some new player kind of pops out and wears something kind of obscure, kind of weird, where you kind of question it, but hey, who's to question some fashion, you know?
Man, it seems like every offseason you have the first week, Innova's world's on fire. Everyone's leaving Innova first week of the offseason. And then right after January 20th, it becomes let's talk about polos and not looking professional countless times. But yeah, here we are again talking about polos. And man, I will also say the players feed into this too a little bit. You see hinting at it. It's obviously a dry time in the media world. So a lot of players will use this as an opportunity to kind of spark up a debate, spark up interest. So we're going to play into their hands and let's discuss what your opinions are on the polos.
Well, to me, I do genuinely think that some pros think that it needs to look more professional. And I think some of the players that come to my mind, especially this last offseason that really kind of made headlines, maybe in some disc golf media, really this one that sticks out is Chandler Kramer at the European Open wearing the neon shorts, a little bit of a neon orange shirt. People didn't really like that. They found it as an eyesore. They found it appalling. I feel like this is kind of gets talked to about people like Nico De Castro, who kind of wears some digital camo on top and some normal camo joggers on bottom, where it doesn't really make sense, but it's Nico, so it does. People have been questioning for this stuff for years. I think that this year it just happens to be Chandler Kramer. I think next year you're going to see someone else maybe Chandler Kramer continues the legacy, as he's kind of hinted at already still having that in his wardrobe. But
those are some definitely Super K blue light special shorts, those neon ones.
Yeah.
He was at a gas station and they're $10, but I don't mind it now. So it's funny because the old example used to be Nico, right? That used to be the one that everybody ran to, and Nico's style is eclectic, not necessarily hobo chic like Kramer's might kind of come off as, right? So it's funny that now you got Kramer who has the ire of it just because of that. Let's be real, it's because he popped off on one tournament in Europe. You know what I mean? Everyone wants to judge him in the remainder of the time. But so do I think there's I'll die on this island. So do I think there's a degree of I kind of agree with you. There's a degree of understanding that you should have some type of guidelines, but I would prefer those to be a little bit looser than others. As long as you're looking, man, because that's objectionable. Even you gotta be looking presentable in some way, shape, or form, right? You can't show up with barbecue rib sauce shirt.
Okay, but no one's doing that. Nobody's doing that.
Nobody's doing that. But I'm just saying, there's got to be some type of guidelines.
Sure, and I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's all subjective when it comes down to the day and where you want to draw the line. You want to draw the line. Just in my opinion, why does it have to be why? What is the obscene thing of wearing athletic shorts and wearing just a dry fit T-shirt, or I just don't get what the problem with that is. We already have that built in.
And for those that are arguing for it, you're gonna put your support behind those players that are doing that, right? So you're benefiting those players whether they're not or are. So why do you care about the others? And I understand the argument of making it shareable or making this, but it's something that makes us unique and it's kind of cool. Now, like I said, I would prefer. Yeah, man, I don't mind the dry fit. I don't mind anything along those lines. It's more so I'm looking for the athletic shorts got to be I prefer something more structured. I think the shorts are more what I'm worried about than the shirt. Man, I just don't want ratty shorts out there. You know what I mean? And Kramer's is kind of borderline, just a bit. It's a little bit of the I think it's just the obnoxiousness of the color that makes it just be hey man, maybe we kind of from the
So are
spec.
you more? You're more okay with like the Josh Anthon long, like shin high and one basketball shorts, but
Oh
not like the 6
no,
grade neon
no, no, no.
neon orange
Yeah,
like pair.
Anthon. Yeah, like no, no, no. Like that. That also goes in line. I think there's like a step above like an athletic short. And I think there's options in disc golf. Like you got, you know what I mean? You got the brands that kind of supply that. And I think there's a somewhat more of a like a better, cleaner look than
So
just
in your mind, it's like comes down to the shorts more so than the upperwear.
yes. I don't know why. That sounds really weird. Like but I'm like, man, the upperwear because nobody's out there in a tank top or like a basketball jersey or anything like that. I might have issues with, but like the dry fits or polo, I don't really care.
So you're not like a fan of the throwback like 2008 like Matty O Yankee A-Rod jersey playing in the World Championship? Like you're a no-go with that?
I would, man. I would be a little bit of a no go.
Oh my god! If you
that one.
don't look back and say that's not one of the best drip in disc golf, you're nuts in my opinion.
I'm not arguing that it's not cool, but I'm saying like to present it and use it as like, hey, here's our company. This is what we're about. It's kind of difficult, like just having a dude in a baseball jersey, like you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's also like to me, it's like the same thing as like what like that's Matty O though. Like if he showed up in a roll tie, like all that, like you're gonna like that's just his personality because it does fit Matty O. Like you can't have a rule written and that says you can't do this, but I have an exception for one person. So my opinion, just don't have the rule in general. Like if Nicola Castro had to wear this like super boring whatever, you're gonna hate it, and you might think to yourself right now, like, no, Nicola Castro needs to dress better. Another one that, in my opinion, comes to light is like Joel Freeman, because how in any way is that better and less of an eyesore than what anybody else is doing?
Because Joel is doing it the way people want, and that's with slacks and a polo.
That's stupid, though. That's just is like, that not dumb?
There's always, but like I think a lot of people who are shooting for polo are also like traditional ball golfers. I think, so I think there's that correlation. So there's unique golfers that have that type of style, that wear like knee high pants and things of that nature that are just that's how they display their uniqueness. But like, so I think that is understandable in their eyes. Do I think it is? No, I think you're just, to me, it like seems like you're just trying too hard to be noticed. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, it's an interesting thought, and there's no right way of doing it. So there's no reason to have a conversation on it. Like, you know what I mean? I get the argument of you want to share this and kind of make this look cool and real. But man, the flight of the disc is what gets people hooked, not what the fucking person who's what they're wearing behind what they're throwing.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I've been having like the same argument that I've been saying for like 2 years. Like I said, I remember like Edward, Drew, and I one time started a disc golf podcast in our dorm, and our first episode, I had this conversation with them because again, disc golf polos, it's just ingrained in the culture of disc golf and forever will be a thing, I'm sure. But I talk about in like the poker scene, like the big like explosion in like 2008 of like the poker was Chris Moneymaker winning the main event, which was how many millions of dollars at the time, like $8 million, I think. So this regular guy who got in the tournament from not like a free satellite or a couple dollar or whatever satellite, so into this $10,000 like once in a lifetime opportunity, and ends up winning and changing his life. And I got so many people hooked on the idea of poker and blew up the sport entirely.
Yeah.
Can you add a little bit of your own personal anecdote so people can believe me?
No, yeah, I will say there's a little bit of a difference just because like he was presented as an amateur despite him not being an amateur. So like he was kind of the every guy, but like he was a player. So it's a little bit of a difference. But I see the argument. Like I get like the concept of like, hey man, anybody can do this. Anybody can throw. Let's go out there and just throw some discs, right?
And I think that's what presents when like when you see Chandler Kramer go out there and do that. And I'm not saying that is a little bit more obscure. Like you don't see every disc golfer going, but it's very common to see like just a dry fit, normal, casual tee. Like you go out and you just walk it in the park. I think that's like has, in my opinion, an appeal to like a lot of the sport. And like the funny thing is, we post these videos that have been getting a lot of views recently, and a lot of the views have been coming from non-disc golfers. And so many people are confused on if it's a professional sport or not, because you do have people like Paul McBeth that are wearing a little bit more professional scene, and you're seeing like again like people. I think like Gavin Rathbun comes to mind, who's wearing just like athletic shorts and a normal T-shirt. You see like these two people, and like they're both on the same card back to back. It's like yes, this is a professional sport. In my opinion, I think it's like a good thing to like have that questioning, because people have the question, and you can further explain. Like, that is not the dying point of seeing someone wearing this. If it was some shirtless person wearing no shoes, yes, I get that. However, if it's just, like someone's not, and all these people were not turned away from the video, but it still drove the curiosity. It drove them to ask the question of what this is, and then I was still able to draw them in of what it was, and direct people to certain websites to buy their first discs. Those are actual interactions that I've had in our comment section from non-disc golfers, and that's something that's cool. And I think it comes from, partly to that. If they just turn and flip to watch golf and all this professional quiet, seeing all these like white dudes, in their polos, that's not as attracting as, a little bit of the diverse characters and personalities you get from disc golf, from the super professionals to the more, Matty O, like doing the whole hand fling, thing. That's just like part of disc golf, in my opinion. And when you try to make everyone do polos or try to have this really regimented uniform, you take away a bunch of the culture that has just been cemented in disc golf, and you're just taking away it. And in my opinion, that's just gross.
So yeah, you sanitize the culture. I understand what you're saying. Now, I thought I would also say your argument of like our most prestigious or most known shot or event was the Holy Shot, which is a character that many people would depict the stereotype of what people believe disc golfers are, right? Here he is breaking the established pro-looking player, and it's celebrated, right? Nobody was talking about, hey, I wish it was this person who was there because Conrad's got too long of a hair. Like, nobody was saying that, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, the fans that don't know disc golf from the outsiders saying, of course, this is the dude that wins, right? But they didn't realize who they're up against. But yeah, so like that, I would say that's like a prime example of like what you're kind of saying, where like, hey, you don't need this. Like, this isn't necessary. Does it help? I'm not going to argue. Does it help? Certainly. Could it help for overly professional guys the game? Yes. Will it react to numbers or growth? Probably not. You're absolutely right. I don't think it would necessarily grow the sport, but it would probably possibly legitimize it a little bit more, maybe to get like more coverage, better coverage, things of that nature. I can understand or listen to that debate. But as far as what you lose, and you can't lose a part of who we are as disc golfers to try to gain popularity. And that's, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's also weird. Like, yeah, it's weird. I'm in the middle. I don't know.
What do you think?
Both ways too.
What do you think the percentage is? Like, if you polled like all disc golfers, what do you think would be the defining factor? Not necessarily all disc golfers. I'll tie that back. Like, people that care about professional disc golf, like people that are actively watching disc golf.
Man, I think it's in large part partially also age dynamics too is probably a big part of this. I would say a fairly larger percentage than you would think are for polos. Yeah, I would say that the bulk of the majority are for it, or leaning towards getting something along those lines. Yeah.
I'm not that surprised. As much as this keeps coming up, it seems like every single time we bring it up, I hear more and more people push back and want the polos, and it's scary that I think that like there's going to be a time where there is going to be some strict, like you have to have a collared shirt, and there's going to be a more strict, I think, requirements moving forward. And I think it's just stupid because I think you're still going to get like the noise and like the personalities through it. Because it just has a collar to it. And like, to me, like this is a losing battle in my opinion. Like I feel like no matter what I say, and like my take on it and my perspective, it'll always just be like I'm wrong. Like, just hands down. Even though at the end of the day, why are you saying it's just a collar? Why is me saying it's just a collar not to say back to you? So.
I'm all for whatever going to make the golfers throw their best too.
Yeah.
Why possibly affect your product that you're trying to sell? And you know what I mean? So even along those lines, if your golfers are going to have issues with it, then why force them to do it just so you can promote it better? Screw that. Promote the players and promote the flights. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, you can, like, and some of these videos will show that, like, that's the promotion of disc golf that I think we're missing. I think we focus too much on the players or like how great this person is. Like, if you really want to grow the sport, like, you got to really just show the true flights of the discs, man. Like those videos where they got drones following those flights, I think that does more for people trying to play this game than anything of a pro wearing what they're wearing in a clip. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's going to be more of the views, and that's the excitement, is like just the pure flight of a disc and like what people can create on it. Like every time I've shown videos of like random people, like some of my coworkers and stuff, like their first thing is like, how do you make that disc bend like that? Like, you know what I mean? Like that's what they're interested in. They're not interested in what I'm wearing or what I look like, or, you know what I mean, what I'm doing. It's like, hey, how do you do that? Like that's kind of neat. And so like, yeah, so I would argue like getting better footage of like clips and flights, and I understand the difficulty of it. Or like even like we've talked about like, hey, you go to these actual pro courses, this gap is far narrower than what the video shows. Like you need somebody to like hold up like a tape measure, like, hey, here's this gap, right? Like, you know what I mean? So like people can actually visualize stuff like that. And that's more how you grow the game than fucking polos. Like, but no, man, we're gonna talk about this next year at the same time, or when somebody's wearing something out there, probably at like a major tournament, like somebody will turn up. You know what I mean, with something different. So we'll hear it then.
Well, do you think if like Chandler Kramer was like, let's say, at the World Championship final round, is he asked not to wear that?
Oh, by like the league? Oh man,
or anyone, Lone
Star.
I
think his sponsor might kind of be like, hey, bro, you know what I mean? What I think it'd be awesome if he's on a podium wearing those shorts. Fucking hell yeah, that would be so sick, right? And I'd laugh out loud and in my head for a while on it, because like that's the image that nobody wants, and I think it would be hilarious. So, that's I'm down for that. So.
All right, moving on. Then we have Eagle McMahon, usually just not on Twitter in general, comes out and with a tweet saying disc golf drama is real, with an emoji kind of saying a little bit of like worriness. What do you think this could be about? Like, I have no inkling.
Yeah, man, the Eagles fucking like an enigma, like wrapped in a mystery, and like the only thing I can kind of allude to, or what I think it might possibly allude to, is obviously, like, I'm sure Eagles getting bombarded with the Simon news as much as everybody. You know what I mean? As far as how he feels, what's going on, everything along those lines.
Yeah.
And they're close friends, right? Then you got also like you got drops from other players mentioning stuff, mentioning players, people leaking stuff, and I think it's hard not to allude to that. And like I think people are also saying like reading into some of the stuff Simon says. Who knows, man? Like Simon talked about like talking to Eagle, doing this. So who knows? People may be going to Eagle and saying like, "How'd you not get him?" Or you know, fans are weird, man. Like disc golfers in general are already a weird bunch. That's what makes us cool. But like, the fandom's weirder. You know what I mean? Like at times. So I'm sure he's just getting it from all fronts. And like, and for him, Eagle's just been about throwing discs. Like that's and just being the best that he can, like, and so like all this stuff, he doesn't want to deal with it. So, man, and who knows? Like, Discmania also has got a ton of like internal possibility of like conversations that we're not knowing with UC, and like, you know what I mean? There could be something in that also.
We just saw Nate Perkins also leave Discmania after being someone who also has just been there for a long time. I just don't see anywhere else. He just, I don't know.
I think I heard he's trying to be an agent.
Really? That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah,
that kind of seems like a role he could fit into.
Yeah, I thought he was trying to get into like some type of agency. I don't know. He's good enough personality, and his disc sold. So like, I'm kind of interested. Like, yeah, so it's kind of interesting to. But I guess you know what I mean. You can pop like Nicholas Antula on that same mold and possibly get the same sales. You know what I mean? So I suppose, yeah, if it's anything like in Discmania, it's going to be something internally and something with management. And you know what I mean? With that structure and people's decision makings, maybe they don't align. We're also Eagles only signed through 2023. So this could be like early negotiation talks. This could be early, you know what I mean? There's so many possibilities.
Yeah.
And let's also, we're talking about going into a season where a lot of people are kind of questioning how Eagles going to do this year, right? Even I said like he's a major storyline. So man, like Yeah, so he's getting it from all fronts. It's probably a little bit of everything, and it's just the atmosphere of it all.
Yeah, to me, it just seems like it has to be something through Discmania, and I'm sure there's a lot of things going on his way of just busy life schedule overall. Becoming the new like face and like sole person of Discmania, I'm sure there's a lot of responsibilities that are kind of thrown all your way. Everything media is, I think, is going to go towards Eagle right now because he really is, the top five guy, and you're obviously number one, but top five talk. But like he hasn't really had a whole lot to prove it. He won that European Open, didn't really do too hot at Worlds or anything other tournaments he came back other than the European Open. So then it was talks of like, okay, is Eagle still 100%? And then we didn't really see him. It was just like not the Eagle we were expecting. So I think there's just a lot of eyes on what Eagle can do and a lot of pressure. And who
Has he
knows?
announced his tour? I'm not sure if you know this, but do you know if he's announced what he's doing on the tour?
I don't know, but I think I saw him say some comment saying he's going to be doing a full tour though.
Oh, is he? Okay.
And if you're Discmania, how are you not pushing that? Like how you
oh
want
yeah,
a
I get it.
guy. I mean, you have Kyle Klein. Don't get me wrong, and I think that Kyle Klein's going to do great things. And honestly, I think that Discmania is going to get hopefully a little bit saved through Kyle Klein. What he's going to be able to do in the 2023 season, especially if Eagle McMahon isn't your guy week in week out competing for a win, which we just don't know yet.
Yeah, I'm in the Eagles fine camp. I'm just going. I'm that guy. Eagles fine.
To me, it's something I say with like Calvin Heinberg too. It's like they just both need to do like that one extra step, in my opinion, to like be cemented as like a great disc golfer hands down. Because I'm trying to like break it down 20 years apart. We're talking having this conversation. If Eagle McMahon or Calvin Heinberg don't win a Worlds or USDGC, and we're really sitting down about the all-time list, where are you going to put them? Where are they going to like really be? But like if you put Calvin Heinberg and winning one of those majors, then it's easier to put above, right? But I mean, Eagle still has some of those titles of like the European Open attached to his name, and still just some other top finishes. But
it would definitely be difficult to put him on the Mount Rushmore of it. But man, the player caliber of what we are seeing now is far better than what we've had in the past, and they should still be recognized up there as like top fives, top 10 at least.
Like, no, and I agree. And like this is a conversation I genuinely cannot have right now because I need like the years of disc golf to really have this conversation. Because there's so many and I can't wait. I hope we're still doing a podcast and we're still like doing hopefully strong on the whole disc golf media front because I'd love to have these conversations one day. Because I would really love to have a conversation with someone a little bit older than me that was still involved in the Ken Climo area. Try to tell me that he's better than Paul McBeth, and then for me to be like, bro, he's not even better than Calvin Heinberg. Like you have to get it out of the conversation. And in my opinion, like you just can't break down. In my opinion, oh man, this is just a weird conversation to have right now. I don't know. I'm just gonna say it because I'm already halfway there. You can't have the conversation about like wins and world championships in general. In my opinion, like that just like is not a category to break it down. Because if you put all these disc golfers in the field, they're all gonna be better than Ken Climo. Like it's just hands down what they can do with a frisbee, Ken Climo could not do in his era. As well as if you're really breaking down wins, and there's so many people that have just like just a random elite series events that more so than other people. Then it's like you're just weighing like weird things. I think you just count all those out. But I'm not talking about that now.
Interesting.
That's one day.
But yeah, man, Eagles gonna be fine, bro. Eagles gonna be fine.
I hope so. I really hope so. I think the one thing that like as long as no matter what with his injury, and hopefully he stayed up to date with putting, because if he's still a dominant force in the putting green, he's gonna be, like you said, fine.
Yeah.
And like if for some reason if he comes out on this season being able to throw lefty just as not just as good, but like significant enough to like eliminate a significant part of his forehand game, he's gonna be dangerous. Because there's not even times. Yes, I understand the angle and just like throwing the hyzer is a lot easier, but there's just angles when you're like in situations around trees and bends where if you can use both hands, forehand or backhand, like his game is just so versatile.
Yeah, I think that's the next step of disc golf. Like you got people who are just starting to catch up on the roller. Obviously, that was a game changer, and now it's starting to get a little like passe after about a year and a half.
Yep.
And now I think that left-handed people are going to do more so along those lines. I think.
Well, to me, it's like it hasn't even seemed like it's been that hard. Like, how long has Eagle been focusing on throwing a lefty, and he's done it in professional events confidently.
Yeah, man, and like as a professional, knowing what your form is, you know what I mean, and like
You
knowing
already
how to
have the
tie in your
perfect
form.
thing.
Yeah, like yeah, you're just now doing muscle memory. Like you know what I mean? Like so that's all you're trying to build. So it would be cool, man. That would be a game changer. I think, man, this is a big year for Eagle. Like I said, with the contract and everything along those lines, not only that, to like establish yourself back from an injury, to establish yourself as the greats that are currently playing. Yeah, man. It's a very big year for Eagle. I do. I do think like I also am kind of the weird thinking like if Eagles and you alluded to it with Calvin too. So like here's my thing with like when we talk about like hey, if Calvin and Eagle don't get a Worlds, like we're thinking right now that they're not getting Worlds because they're up against a Ricky and a Paul, right? Like down the line, there might be a little bit easier. Like at this point in time, like it's going to be difficult for them to pull Worlds out within the next 3 years with the competition, right? Like already,
Well,
whoever
I think it
wins
just gets
these,
harder and harder. No.
man, yes and no. Like, yeah, I get that people are going to kind of say, hey, Isaac Robinson, Gannon, they're all coming up, right? Jacob Mond, they're all going to throw those at me. Like, these guys are all going to get better. But if you can kind of be Eagle can be what Ricky is a few years from now, he's going to win a world. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, same with Calvin. Like, they will be the Ricky and Paul. You know what I mean? Once that you get what so like, and there'll be at least like a 3-year stretch of that, in my opinion. And Dickerson might also be in that, like briefly talk too.
What? Yeah, I don't see that happening. I just see it getting harder and harder. I think that right now we're seeing the young talent go full on tour, and they're just going to get better. Like I see Gannon being super good. I see Anthony Barella being amazing. I think even Adam Hammis still has a sliver of hope, in my opinion. I think this is the last year, though. I think if Adam Hammis has a flop year again, this Trask guy has some thinking to do, or he needs to really make sure his friendship with the AB is like really tight. You know, I think that there's just so many young talent on the up and up that it's gonna just be harder and harder and harder. And that I think that this is the point in time where I think that this is what disc golf needs to make majors more significant. Because when it's like you don't see like the random person winning the Champions Cup, then yeah, you're gonna flex that because it's a major championship, and you know you might only have a major underneath your belt. So if someone ever comes back at you and like you only have one win, it's like yeah, but it's a major. So when more and more people are winning these, you know, higher up tournaments, I think it's going to be, you know, just harder and harder and harder and harder, and you're going to see like more, you know, the Champions Cup is going to be a talk about thing on an all times list at some point. I think.
Okay.
Just like a USDGC is, maybe not as the US because it's going to go World's USDGC. You know, you name it.
They'll get there. I see what you. So you think it could possibly end up being third and like the most prestigious? Right?
I don't, man. I feel like the finale is up there. It's unique. It's different.
Okay.
I think the match play has opportunity. That's really dependent on if pros really enjoy it. If they really express they do not enjoy this matchup or that type of this tournament, then it's going to be a flop. But if you have enough people that enjoy it, because you don't need everyone, you just need like 32 people that really like it. Because even if you get that person who's like is 32 to win, like that's way better for your event. So something like that. And I don't think they do like 16 too. I think so. It's like you can find 16 elite.
I'm the guy that's like 4 more majors also.
Me too.
Like I think there should be 2 in Europe. I think there should almost be.
Well, there are multiple in Europe. There's just like, can you count them if like you have 25% of the field? That's like you're typically.
Well, no, yeah, I'm just like you only. I'm talking tied to the. Well, I was also kind of alluding to being tied to like the DGPT. You know what I mean? So like that tie, like I think there should be 2 qualify. Like it should almost like be regional. Like you should almost have like a major like regionally in this like certain spots. That's why I kind of think you have to.
I agree.
In Europe,
and I think that
so like that way you can hit. Like maybe like Scandinavia and then work your, you know what I mean? Like you can hit 2. Like that's all I'm trying to say. And like even the US, I think there should be like 5.
I think there should be enough. I like that regional aspect because I think disc golf is so different when you go different places because you have, the whole West Coast side is you're not playing in woods. You're not seeing a whole aspect of disc golf. And instead of saying you're missing a part of that aspect, I think we've really been good at transitioning into like, no, that's just West Coast disc golf. So why is there not a major that's designed for West Coast disc golf?
True.
Flex who the best West Coast, because we talk all about the time, like, we're waiting for players to go to the East to show their disc golf, and then you do get a little bit of that over there because most of the majors are over there anyways. But
it would be cool to do regional and like rotate the sites, like not have it. That would be like, you know what I mean? Like, so now you got your West where you could have it at Utah, you can have it at Milo. You know what I mean? Like that would be kind of like, that would be cool. And man, that's something like you could promote. Now you're promoting more. Now you're promoting more courses. You're promoting more pros that are competing in a higher level tournament, and it's going to create more excitement. Like it would be neat. That would be really cool.
Well, I would say too, I think something that might be even like could be cooler and have a lot of potential. We're instead of maybe adding just majors, why doesn't it like we just look out for like someone else in disc golf who wants to put up like a large amount of money and do like an independent thing? So you're going away from the PDGA, you're going away from the DGPT, but you have this yearly tournament, this annual event that gives out their first place prize is like absurd amount of money, but that's all they do or something, and have that be like a prestigious thing to where you're starting it from like the whole point of Champions Cup and like why it's different is at the end of the day you're just saying it's a major. But if you go to this other event and you're giving $1 million away for the first place prize, like that's significant. You're gonna get people to go because who doesn't want to win $1 million? No matter what, you're gonna get people to go to that.
And you're already kind of close there. Like Ledgestone's a prime example where that's become like a prestigious tournament just because of what they pay, right?
Yeah.
Like every pro's there.
Because you have like Eureka that's so like unique in my opinion of you're really showing disc golf again at the end of the day because you're throwing over a baseball field in like a park. Like how is that like that's like prime example of disc golf, but then you're going to Northwoods and just how the tight wooded holes and the narrow fairways and just how absurdly hard it is. That's also disc golf. Like that's just like showing the two contrasting things that are just both equally as part of our sport.
Oh, that's fair. I dig it.
And that's why you shouldn't wear polos. Put it all together.
Circle on back. Fuck polos.
But I think
But it would be interesting to see what the fans think. Our fans. So if you got it,
comment down below.
See what you think. Like, and B, like, I think we'd be on the losing percentage of that. Like, I really do. If I was a betting, I'd almost say it's like 65% favor Polos. I'd go that high.
I hope not. I really hope not. So, but I think that's gonna wrap up this episode of the Spit Out. If you guys enjoyed, definitely make sure to like as well as rate and review the podcast. It definitely helps us out. Follow us on our social medias. Check out the Disc Golf World. Subscribe. Got big things coming your way. Hopefully, we see you in the next one.